Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Oriental Carbon and Chemicals Limited Q4 and FY21 earnings call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Akshat Goenka, Promoter and Joint Managing Director of Oriental Carbon and Chemicals Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. Along with me, I have Mr. Anurag Jain, our CFO, and SGA, our Investor Relations Advisors. Before we begin, I hope you and your loved ones are in the best of health and keeping safe by taking all the COVID-related precautions. I hope you have received our result and investor presentation by now. You can view the same on our company website. I am delighted to share that the Board of Directors have recommended a final dividend of Rs 10 per equity share of Rs 10 each. This is 100% of the face value. In addition to the interim dividend declared of Rs 4 per equity share in November 2020, thereby giving a total dividend of Rs 14 per equity share for the financial year ended 21. Coming to the performance of the company, financial year 21 began with lots of challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic and the consequent lockdown during quarter one. However, we have ended the year on a strong note. The outburst of COVID-19 pandemic had caused severe disruptions in business operations across industries. However, as the economy started to unlock gradually, we started witnessing recovery in demand. Our business operations started to pick up pace and we saw gradual improvement in our production levels. We started seeing recovery in our business trajectory starting second quarter with normalization of replacement and OEM demand in the domestic as well as international markets. This growth momentum has sustained in quarter 4 FY21 and we have reported a top-line growth of 21% compared to previous year, quarter 4. For the year 21, the company has clocked revenues of 344.7 crores. In the current business environment, we have seen an increase in raw material prices, which continued into quarter 1 of FY22 as well, and hence is impacting margins in the current quarter. However, we are continuously focused on implementing measures towards controlling costs and improving operational efficiencies. Both our plants at Dharuheda and Mundra are running normally despite the second wave of COVID, and we are taking all necessary precautions at all our workplace. Our expansion project is facing delays on account of hampered civil work, which again due to unavailability of labor and mobility issues for procuring machines due to the localized lockdowns that were in effect across the country in April and May. With the unlocking and the pickup in various activities, we now expect the projects to be commissioned by October 2021. Also, I am very pleased to announce that OCCL has been awarded with the EcoVadis Gold Sustainability Rating. This places OCCL among the top 6% of companies assessed by EcoVadis globally during the year. This is a very good achievement, and we are very focused on being responsible and sustainable. OCCL addresses the demanding requirements of the tire companies worldwide in terms of quality of product on one hand and superior service on the other, often collaborating with them to work out unique solutions. We are long-term suppliers to most of the prominent global and Indian tire companies. We are focused on leveraging a strong execution track record to help us increase our wallet share with existing customers. Continuous investments in technology and R&D enables us to develop our product further. We will be focused on consolidating our dominant position in the Indian market while increasing our penetration into those markets where we have low penetration right now. To conclude, it has been a good year for us despite external challenges. We believe that the short term may be challenging, both from a demand and margin perspective in view of the various disruptions caused. However, we are confident that the medium-term outlook is stable. Now I would like to hand the line over to Mr. Anurag Jain to update you on the financial performance of the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. I will take you all through the standalone financials of the company. Total income for Q4 FY21 was up 21% year-on-year to rupees 106.9 crores as compared to rupees 88.3 crores in Q4 FY20, driven by sustained demand momentum post strong Q3 FY21. EBITDA for Q4 FY21 stood at rupees 38.7 crores as compared to rupees 29 crores in Q4 FY20, a growth of 33% year-on-year. EBITDA margins for Q4 FY21 stood at 36.2%. Margins have been affected by increased input costs. However, our sustained focus on improving operational efficiencies and tight cost control has led to limited impact on EBITDA. Profit after tax for Q4 FY21 stood at rupees 24.8 crores as compared to rupees 17.1 crores in Q4 FY20, a growth of 45% year-on-year. Our PAT margins for Q4 FY21 improved by 390 BPS to 23.2%. To quickly summarize the full year numbers, total income for FY21 stood at rupees 344.7 crores compared to rupees 353 crores in FY21. The minor dip in total income was due to Q1 FY21 results being affected by the shutdown of plant due to COVID-19 lockdown and low offtake of material immediately after resumption of production. EBITDA stood at rupees 124 crores as compared to rupees 108.5 crores in FY20, a growth of 14% year-on-year. Margins for the full year stood at 36%. PAT stood at rupees 75 crores for FY21 as compared to rupees 71.5 crores in FY20, a growth of 5% year-on-year. PAT margins for full year stood at 21.8%. With this, I would like to open the floor for questions and answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1 now. The first question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Do you have any capacity based on whatever on the quarter 3 and quarter 4 capacity utilization that you have for the ensuing year for growth, or now the incremental growth on the revenue that we saw in quarter 3, quarter 4 is purely dependent on the new capacity which kicks in from quarter 3 of FY22? So that was my first question. My second question is, we did a call in quarter 3 around February. We were hopeful of capacity expansion coming in by quarter 1. Just was trying to understand why it's been dragged up to quarter 3 straight. That's the second question. And third is there any supply changes in the industry over the next couple of years?
Thanks for the questions. Firstly, I'll answer question 2. We were always hopeful of it coming in July. And then we lost April and May and a lot of June due to our vendors being shut, so equipment's not coming in, labor not there, so that's the reason. And even right now, a lot of people are struggling in getting labor back and supplying us equipment. So since the project is very dependent on external factors rather than internal factors, that's the reason we are saying October. Point number 3, there is no new supply side developments from my side to update on, except for what we've already said before and what are publicly announced. Question 1, quarter 3 and 4, we were practically at optimum capacity utilization. Maybe a little bit here and there is there, but yeah, the major growth would come with new capacity.
Okay. Just on that supply side, sir. So, in your opinion, what should be the industry capacity utilization today, let's say in quarter 4, because a lot of them would have gone to their full capacity utilization? And over the next 2 years, based on the supply scenario, what do you think should be the capacity utilization in the industry?
So, I think, I'll only take it through from us. I would assume that everybody would have been at optimum capacity utilization in quarter 3 and quarter 4, right? Going forward, capacity is coming in from us. 30,000 tons is coming in from China Sunshine. But I think if the situation remains like it was in quarter 3 and quarter 4, and looking at natural growth rates and all those things, these capacities should get absorbed. I don't have specific data on capacity utilization for our competitors.
Okay. So the industry capacity utilization will not go through a sea change in the next 3 years, right? 2 years. Even after the capacity addition.
Yeah, this is assuming that in quarter 3 and quarter 4 things were at optimum levels.
Sorry?
This is assuming that quarter 3, quarter 4 things were at optimum levels, and in the next 1, 2, 3 years, regular levels of growth normalize and increase demand.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anuj Sharma from M3 Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just on the previous question and extension of the same. So, how is the pricing behaving? Can you just give some insights on how the pricing is behaving and what is the outlook on pricing?
See, the pricing, there was no sea change in the pricing during the last 6 months. But with the increase in raw materials, we are expecting prices to go up from next quarter to absorb the increase in raw materials.
All right. But as you said, on the supply side, there has been a delay and the demand continues to be optimum. Do you expect some changes on the pricing side, given that it's more the demand is more secular?
So that is why I said that looking at this, we think that we will get the pricing from next quarter to absorb the increase in raw material prices.
Okay. So I'm just going beyond the raw materials. So just beyond the pass on, there is no outlook you have on beyond the.
Currently, we cannot say that it will increase. If you are saying that whether the whole margin will bump up from what it was in Q3 and Q4, I would not say that.
All right. Thank you. And my next question is, on the cash balance, how are we deciding how much cash we'll require, and how are we thinking about the cash utilization?
So as of now, we are looking at utilizing cash in alternate investments, which are showing up in annual report as well when they come out, and that is where we are doing it. we are also keeping some cash available to offset our debt, so that that option is always there, and you're not running a high debt environment. And and then as appropriate, we'll see what needs to be done.
Okay. So lastly, last question on the alternate investment. What is the final or the total commitment we have decided? Is there any change on that? And what is the expense structure of this alternate investments?
So as of now, the committed investments towards these alternate investments would be ballpark roughly 60 crores. And we are quite comfortable taking it to around 20% of our net worth, or gradually over time, and our net worth will also keep increasing. What was your second question regarding that? Expense?
Yeah, what is the expense structure of this alternate investment?
What do you mean by that?
What is the cost of management, the fee structure?
You're saying it's different. It's different because a lot of investments are done directly where there is hardly any fees. Some of them are, a little bit of them are through funds, which has a standard fee. It's very different. It can't be answered in a general way.
All right. Thank you for that.
The returns we look at are always net of fees.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Shashank Ganodia from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, so thanks for the opportunity. So just wanted to understand, so large part of raw material inflation is already building into the numbers, or is there some part which will spill over to Q1 as well?
No, large part is going to come in Q1.
Okay. So in that case, then what will be a sustainable margin guidance at your end that you will like to guide us?
See, the medium-term, long-term guidance remains the same, what we said in last quarter of EBITDA margins in the 28 to 32% range. It's very difficult to guide on Q1 margins and Q2 margins right now.
Right. But sir, last 3 quarters you have done much ahead of the 32% upper bracket of the range, right? So, and with operational efficiencies also kicking with the brownfield expansion. So is like 34-35% kind of a range sustainable for us over the long term, 23 at least, FY 23?
Look, if you ask is it possible, then yes, it's possible. But is it something that we can commit to right now? The answer is no.
Okay, fine. Secondly, sir, on the capex front, so out of the entire completed capex, what amount have you spent till date, and what is going to spend in FY 22 and 23?
Till March 31st, we had spent around 120 crores odd. Mm-hmm. And in this financial year, just for the current capex, we probably expect to spend another 30-35. Let's call it 35. And then for the second round of capex, the amount would be roughly 60 crores. And the exact deployment depends on when we kickstart it.
Right. So, sir, but is it safe to assume that by FY 23 and we commission the second phase as well, or it can go even beyond that?
I think we'll take a call on this once this line is commissioned. So from the time we take a call to do it, 16 to 18 months is when it will take to commission. And the earliest we will decide on it is in October after this one is commissioned.
Right. And sir, lastly, what is the growth?
To answer your question, I would say March 23 is the earliest that it would come.
Right.
So your question is answered?
Yeah, I was just asking what is the gross debt on books and what is the trajectory going forward for us?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So what is the gross debt on our books balance sheet on the standalone basis and the trajectory going surplus cash on balance sheet as well?
So the total debt as of 31st March, including short-term and long-term, was 178 crore rupees.
Any repayment for the next 2 years?
So next 2 years, if you are looking at the end of the next year, we think that it will be around 180 to 185 crore rupees by the end of next year also, considering the capex which is there and the repayments which are there.
Right. Fine, sir. Thank you so much.
I think we are close. I think we are going to be close to peak debt by September 30th.
Yes.
Right. Understood, sir. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Chirag from HDFC Asset Management Company. Please go ahead.
There's a couple of questions from my side. The first one is, what is the total revenue potential from the new capacity? And if you could break that up between insoluble sulfur and the sulfuric acid part. And when do you expect to achieve full utilization? That's my first question.
Just give me a moment. So the total revenue potential would be about 140 crore rupees, 130 to 140 crore rupees for the two lines.
And can you break that up between the two lines, please?
Hello? No. So the two lines are equal, no?
No, sulfuric acid.
No, I meant between, not the two lines of 5,500 each. I meant between this includes sulfuric acid, external sales as well.
Sulfuric acid should be around another 25 to 30 crore rupees.
The total potential is 170 crores. Is that the correct understanding?
So basically what Anurag is saying is that line 1 should give around 70 crores and sulfuric acid should give another 20-25 crores. And then line 2 should give another 70 crores.
Got it. That's great. The second question is, in terms of, growth for the last few years has been on the slower side. So you've grown 5 years CAGR revenue at sort of 4% and 3 years at around 5%. And we understand that there are opportunities within insoluble sulfur, but we also recognize that the company has looked at outside opportunities, within chemicals, but outside of insoluble sulfur. And any thoughts on that? And if you could just maybe just comment on that, that would be helpful.
So, no, Chirag, thanks for the question. So we did review various things outside insoluble sulfur, but none of them, in a related space fructified. And we dropped the idea of doing anything in the related space. Now, the question then comes is, are we going to do something in an unrelated space? And frankly, as per what our internal deliberations and discussions right now are, is that I don't think we are poised to do anything in a totally unrelated space.
And sorry, I didn't catch that. You're opposed or unopposed?
No, we are right now not keen on venturing into an unrelated space, which is not directly related to insoluble sulfur. And the ecosystem around insoluble sulfur, around tires, around rubber chemicals is something that we have reviewed and exhausted as of now.
And when going back to the earlier question, when do you expect to achieve full utilization of both lines?
Okay. Anurag, do you have the figures for this? When do we expect to achieve full utilization of both the new lines?
By the year 24-25, somewhere in the second half of 24-25.
So the first line we would hope would be in the next financial year. That would be our hope, depending on how the growth rates come and how the new approvals come. And,
so by the end of FY23.
Correct. By the end of calendar year 22, early calendar year 23 is when we expect to achieve full utilization for the current line. And I think it's a bit early to talk about when we expect to achieve full utilization of the next line, because we're going to review the scenario in September and October. That's when a lot of our approvals and orders are supposed to come in for calendar year 22. So now if everything comes in smoothly and we have very good visibility on the current line, that's when we'll pull the trigger to expand the other line. And then that would basically be commissioned by March, April 23, assuming we pull the trigger to start it at the end of this year. And then that would take its own few months to ramp up.
Sure. Could you speak about the alternative investments? What are they in right at the moment?
Sorry, please repeat.
You had mentioned alternative investments of, I think, 60 odd crores. So
Yeah.
in what fund, what's the format, in which funds, what type of funds have you invested in?
Sure. So I can speak about it, and when our annual report is published in the next few weeks, all the data as on 31st March, which is around 30 odd crores, along with commitments, will be published. But these are various, I would say, a lot of opportunistic investments that have come about, as well as some focused ones. Would you like me to go through each one right now, or we can,
the more meaningful ones would be helpful. So of this 30 crores, what would, and the commitment of 30, what are the larger investments?
So the larger ones out of the commitment of 60 would be funds, right? Funds like Fireside Ventures, funds like India Quotient, and some high yield debt funds which are doing very well. In terms of
these are either high yield private equity or some form of equity funds.
Correct. There is no public markets. Firstly, there is nothing in public markets. Now, if you want some other marquee names that you may be familiar with, which has actually given a stellar return on paper, is ShareChat, that has been in the news recently. We got in at a very good valuation. It's already gone 2-3x in 6 months. Similarly, things like Blue Tokai, something like a Bira has doubled in 6 months from when we invested. Another company where we invested money in March.
These are directly invested in the company. So Blue Tokai, for example, you would have invested directly into the company, not via a fund. Hello?
The line for the management is disconnected. Kindly stay online till I reconnect them. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the management line reconnected to the call. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
So sorry, we got disconnected. Apologies for that. Chirag, did you catch my entire answer?
No, I got part of it, but my question follow-up to that was, so companies like Blue Tokai you would have invested in directly, not through a fund.
Correct. So the larger investments, if you talk about out of 60 crores, the larger checks that comprise that would be through funds. Smaller checks would be direct. But
and right now a 30 crore investment and a 30 crore commitment. Is that right?
Like the co-invest or like, through the network. Because you see, in the last year, a lot of companies, as you know, went through a lot of distress. And they were forced to raise funds at, very good rates and very good opportunities. And what happened is plenty of the existing investors did not have the liquidity or did not want to commit more capital to exercise the pro rata. So people like us got the opportunity to participate at rock bottom rate.
Sure. And this is a 30 crore investment at present with a 30 crore commitment, additional 30 crore commitment.
That's correct. And also the reason for that is because, as you know, in the fund structure, you make a commitment which is drawn down over 4 years.
Understood. So my follow-up to that is that, obviously our base business is a manufacturing entity, and our payout is still extremely low. Despite the fact that you have paid out 14 rupees, the payout as a percentage of profit remains very low. And hence, wanted to understand the rationale. We understand this commitment of 60 crores has already been made, but the comment that you will go up to 25% of net worth and last year's net worth will take you to around 100 crore investment. So the justification for increasing investments further from here is what we'd like to understand when the payout ratio is as low as it is.
Look, it's a valid point, and it's always a point. I would say that one has to look at it from a point of view of returning money to shareholders versus earning a good return for the shareholders. I think that's where the conversation has to come to. And And I think let me give your point more thought and then circle back to you and answer it in a better manner.
So what we would look, certainly, I think all minority shareholders, these kind of investments, we understand the commitment of 60, but we would look to see that any investment above the 60 is done in an individual capacity. So you can pay out the money as a dividend, and then individually promoters can do that in their own individual capacity. Because as shareholders, we are keen to invest in Oriental Carbon. We are not necessarily keen to participate in Fireside or Blue Tokai or others. So I would urge management to think about restricting this investment to 60 crores and not enhancing it to 20% of net worth, which is a very, very substantial number in our minds.
I think fair enough and point well taken, Chirag. We'll circle back on this. I made a note on it.
Sure. The last question I had was, I believe Eastman has sold out their insoluble sulfur business to One Rock. So do you see any impact of that?
So yes, this is certainly there. They have sold it out. I believe the price that has been declared is around $725 million. Impact on that, I think it's too soon to say how it's going to shake out. The deal hasn't closed. It's expected to close in the next few months, and then we have to see what happens in the market with that.
Sure. Great. Thank you very much.
I think the deal value certainly seems, quite less to me, if I had to say it that way.
Could you have a sense in terms of what would be the revenue or profitability of the businesses sold? Because I know it's not just insoluble sulfur; it also includes something else.
Yeah, we don't have exact figures, but if I had to make a wild guess, this seems to be in a EBITDA multiple of maybe 6 to 8, somewhere in those single-digit regions.
Sure. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much, and all the best for the coming year.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dixit Doshi from Whitestone Financial Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Most of the questions have been answered. Just a couple of small things. What would be the cost of debt currently? And you mentioned that our capacity of 10,000 is coming and Sunshine is coming up with 30,000 tons. What would be the current global capacity?
So the cost of debt would be somewhere at an average of about 7.3% to 7.4%. And as far as global capacities are concerned, they should be around 300,000 tons.
Okay. And one more thing. Last time you mentioned that, this 41,000 tons of capacity is coming up between OCCL and Sunshine, but there is some reduction in the reduction is also going to happen in one of the Japanese plant and Eastman plant. So post this expansion, do you feel that reduction will happen? Post this deal of Eastman, will the capacity of will they be looking for shutting down the plant, or it may not happen?
I think the Japanese plant has already happened, but we don't know what will happen in the future because it has already been taken up by One Rock. So it will not be right to speculate just now what steps they will take with that company in the near future.
Okay, fine. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to remind participants that you may press star 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Datta from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. I just wanted to know, has there been any significant disruption in the month of April and May, and how is it looking like in the current month?
Has there been any significant reduction in the Yes, there has been an impact on sales, especially in the month of May, which is going to continue in June. April was okay. but in May there was a reduction in demand, especially in the domestic market, and that reduction continues in the month of June. But we hope that with everything opening up and the tire and the auto companies now started remanufacturing again, it should again ramp up from July onward.
Okay, if I have to just in percentage term from Q4 levels, what will be the impact? Just ballpark, what kind of downside was there in the month of May?
That's with a reduction, and but I will not be able to tell you exact percentages because we do not discuss the quantities here.
Okay. And in terms of raw material price,
okay, I will tell you, in the domestic market, there has been a reduction of more than 20%.
Okay. And sir, raw material side, is the pricing upswing still on, or has there been some softening because there has been softening in prices of other chemical prices also?
No, unfortunately, in our case, what has happened is that they have attained stability in the last 3 months, but we do not see any softening as of now. So they have been increasing incessantly for the 6 months till April, and now they have been more or less stable since then. But we are not seeing any softening. We were expecting some softening in the month of May or June, but unfortunately, it has not happened till now.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagaraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So, pardon me for my limited knowledge, but as I can see in terms of our capacity expansions, these have happened at the rate of 5,500 metric tons on a consistent basis. Is there any thumb rule to this? And since we have reached at a level where the growth probably will be relatively faster, again, why are we going at just 5,500 2 lines instead of going in for a little higher expansion, which can probably give us benefits of scale? Thank you.
No, there is the only thumb rule is that our lines are designed this way that one line has approximate capacity of 5,500. So these are the lines that we keep adding one by one. There is no other thumb rule on that in terms of demand, etc. Obviously, if the demand is more or less, we can pace the lines accordingly to meet the demand.
Right, but as I can see historically, every after a couple of years, we have seen that there has been a capacity addition. So, is it not possible to do it at one go instead of going it, on a yearly basis, which, as I explained, probably would be good in terms of benefits of scale. So, instead of having a 11,000 tons capacity, directly going for maybe a 22,000 ton capacity. Which can give us those kind of benefits.
So we buy the land, and when we do the civil work, etc., and common utilities, we do it on the scale for it to be able to meet 11,000 tons. So that is why whenever we do the capex, the first phase is much more expensive than the second phase, because in the second phase only the line comes in, the common utilities, civil work, etc., is done in the first phase itself.
Right. And generally, how much time does it take to put up a line?
So it takes around 18 months for a line to come up in normal circumstances.
Okay. Right. So we have to plan probably a couple of years in advance if we, if we gauge that there would be certainly a demand increase.
Yes. Right? So ideally, we would like to see the demand 2 years ahead and then put up a line.
Correct. And you explained in the earlier answer that we expect that sometimes in mid-2024 we see the incremental capacity utilization being absorbed, and we are at optimal level. So effectively, it seems that every single year we'll have to add another 1,500 tons of line.
Well, that depends on the growth, what growth we see in future. So based on that, we have to time the expansion.
Right.
We have to take into account what is the market growth that we are anticipating, and accordingly we time the expansion.
Right. And just a small clarification. So maybe sometime in 2017, what was the cost to put up 5,500 tons of line, and what has it been now? I mean, just to understand what has been the price inflation in terms of the equipments and the capital expenditure.
So when we started off the expansion, there was not much inflation at all. Thankfully, a lot of our equipments and expenditure was done before the COVID. A lot of the commitments are made. After this COVID has come with steel going through the roof, there has been massive inflation. I would say maybe even 30% in just the last 1 year. But we've been protected from a major part of it because we had our orders in before COVID.
Sure, that understood. Thanks a lot, and best of.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Neeraj Mansinghka from White Pine Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hi. I just wanted to know on your subsidiary Duncan Engineering. Can you give your thoughts on what you see going ahead and how you see the investments in that firm and where the businesses, and some more color on that would be useful.
So the line is not very clear, but basically what you're asking is how Duncan Engineering is doing and what the way forward is. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So Duncan Engineering performance continues to improve, as is evidenced from its numbers. The cash position also keeps improving. In the last year, we've beefed up the team. We've brought in new people in engineering and in procurement and all these kinds of areas. And now, in terms of growth for that company, that will come from new products, better products, and new approvals. They have different approval things like EIL approval and all those kinds of things. And then approvals in, the PSUs like BHEL and NTPC and places like that. So working towards that, and then the growth should be good.
Can you give more color on whether you are planning to invest more money in the firm and?
We're not planning on investing more money from here. That I can tell you.
Okay. And long-term prospects of having this business as a core business, or is it ultimately sell off or hive off?
When that is decided, you'll be the first to know.
No, the reason I'm asking you is because sometime back you just mentioned that you're not having much ideas of investment, right? You don't want to enter to unrelated space, but this is a space you are present, so that's why I was wondering.
No, there is nothing on the table to invest further.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shiv Chenani from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for the opportunity. So just wanted to have your view on how do you see Oriental Carbon evolving, let's say, over a 5-year time frame. The reason I'm asking this question is that, clearly, let's say, once the new capacity is on, it will be generating anywhere between 150 to 200 crores kind of an EBITDA number. I mean, depending on cycle and a whole lot of other things, but which will sort of, make it self-sufficient in terms of, the new expansions going forward. So how do we see, Oriental Carbon? Is this a company which sort of, grows along with the underlying industry growth, which generally is a single-digit kind of a number, and hence, consequently throws out a lot of cash? and of course the management takes a call on how and where to deploy that cash, or there are some other thoughts around it. So if you can just give me a color, like how should we look this company over a 5-year period?
So right now we are basically focused on selling out the capacity that is going to come on stream. And if we look at our overall tonnage numbers that we sold in the year ended March 31st gone by, and if you look at the potential capacity that we'll have 3 years from now, there is still a huge delta to cover, and covering that delta on its own is also going to give a lot of growth. Beyond, no, we have not thought of anything else. So if you had to push me to pick one of the two options that you suggested, then the first option, where the company grows with the underlying growth and throws up cash.
Right. And so again, I mean, a follow-up to that is, and again, which is probably an extension of what Chirag asked earlier. I mean, is the company at some point of time going to decide on its capital allocation policy and say that, we are going to sort of pay out this much of, as a percentage of profits to the shareholders, which can be a mix of dividend and a buyback, and this is the kind of cash we are going to deploy in surplus investments? I mean,
no, I think that's a fair point that Chirag has raised, and now that you followed upon. Sooner rather than later, it appears we will have to chalk out a policy and come out with it for the shareholders.
Sure, fair enough. Thanks a lot, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Apurva Mehta from AM Investments. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, this new capacity, what will be the timeline to ramp up this capacity? Like, if it, when it starts in October, can we ramp up in a month's time or 2 months' time if the demand is there? Or it will take some time to ramp up?
So, what Akshat has also pointed out, that once it starts in October, we hope to ramp up a substantial part of it by 22, when the anticipated orders should flow in for the next year. So the dispatches of that should start from some from November, December for exports or January, like that.
Okay. And on the customer front, when you were they're telling we will be ramping up and exporting more to US, are we still in place and getting getting new customers from the US, or what's your take on that?
So yes, we are looking at new customers from US, but not new customers globally. Most of them would be plants of the customers where we supply elsewhere, but not in US. So that will be there.
Okay. And a request to the management, to think about giving dividend, which is taxable very high nowadays for a HNI kind of thing and everybody. It's better to have a buyback kind of a thing, which will be sustainable buyback, where the management having only 51-52% kind of holding. So that can also go up, or management participating in that same buyback, and the company is still traded at a very reasonable or a less than fair value kind of thing. So it's better to have a buyback kind of a thing that would be more tax friendly also.
Okay, we have noted what you have said.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajat Sethia from iThought Financial Consulting. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. So my first question is, what will be the blended tax rate after the new capacity comes online?
So are you talking about tax rate after the new capacity?
Correct. On the new revenue.
The tax rate applicable to now is 25% plus surcharge. So that is the rate which will be applicable to us. Obviously, we had some MAT carry forwards, so the outflow would be on MAT basis only.
So which is around 22%?
MAT का कितना रहेगा? 20 18, yeah, it will be around 18. The outflow will be around 18.
Okay, all right. And the second question is about the capacity extension. So once we are done with the ongoing brownfield capex, is there room to grow in a brownfield manner after this?
I didn't get your question.
No, there is no room to grow brownfield after this.
Okay.
Okay. And let's say after a couple of years we decide to grow in a greenfield manner. So what kind of cost differential will come? So today we are spending around 220 crores for 11,000 tons. What kind of capex can it take for the similar capacity in greenfield?
I think in today's prices for greenfield, 220 would have, ballpark become 300 or more.
300. So at some point in time, we will have to undertake that. So at those levels, at that cost, what do you think of the IRR that can?
So there is no payback today. There is no payback for greenfield today for anybody.
Okay. Then how do you envisage our supply scenario from our side, our capacity and all, after 5 years? Because if there is no payback, then are we not going to grow after 5 years?
That bridge will have to be crossed when we reach there. That's today's situation is what it is. Today's situation is 47,000 tons brownfield expansion and greenfield expansion is not viable. Now let's see when the time comes what the market scenario is at that stage.
Sure, sir. Appreciate your reply. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next follow-up question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investments. Please go ahead.
Just I have one follow-up. In the quarter gone by, which is the current quarter, were our units, plants operating or they were shut for some days?
No, the plants were not totally shut for any day. So they were operating, albeit at a lower capacity because of the fall in demand, but they were operating, yeah.
And for us, export
demand.
Sorry?
If the demand went, we took shutdowns more because demand went down, right? So we did not run the plants because of that.
So plant was unoperational for how many days in the quarter?
No, sorry, we took shutdown of lines. The plants were operational.
Okay, understood. And for us, the export should have been doing well, right?
Yes, again, exports did well in April. There is a slight decrease in the month of May and June. Hopefully, it should come back in July. Okay. But the decrease has been more remarkable in the domestic market.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Due to the time constraint, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
I take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining on the call. I hope we have been able to address all your queries. For any further information, kindly reach out to us or Strategic Growth Advisors, our Investor Relation Advisor. Thank you once again. Take care.
Thank you. On behalf of Oriental Carbon and Chemicals Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.